And we're off to the race, like I normally say. My next guest today, or tonight rather, is an internationally recognized certified sports nutritionist. He's based out of Beverly Hills, California. He was a host of Rehan Jalali Celebrity Fitness Show on KABC in Los Angeles, also broadcasting online worldwide. He has over 1,000 nationally and internationally published articles on nutrition supplementation. He's helped so many people get fit and get in shape. He's also a filmmaker as well, and an amazing person. He's been on TED Talks. Without further ado, help me welcome Rehan Jalali, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's get the party started. Hi, Rehan. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing amazing. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, except I had to modify the modality. So I went from hey, there you are. You look so handsome, man. You look better, sharper than I do.
They told me I have a face for radio. Is that good? Or they
It's
told me I have a
perfect.
face for radio.
Thank you. I gotta say I'm obviously taken aback and super delighted to see you on here on our humble podcast. I'll put it to you that way. Almost Famous Radio Podcast. I've been following you for some time now. I know you've done work with a slew of celebrity and artists alike in the movie and movie industry, and you're also yourself an acclaimed filmmaker. So kudos to you. I have I wanted to see where we could get started. I obviously have so many questions. One being maybe you can train me myself into whipping me into shape. Quite literally, I actually have a whip hanging in the back over there. I don't know if you can see it. You're ready. I want to know all the ins and outs of health, because this information we can bestow upon so many viewership. Like I said, when we first started, the streaming, that I had to go with a different modality today. So today we're doing a slight change, but it's okay because change is very necessary. You gotta be moving forward or you're moving backward, right? And so we're on with the show, and the show must continue to roll. I wanted to ask you because there was a quote in one of your books, first and foremost, about being the skinniest kid on the block. I read someplace. Is that a fact? You went from being the skinniest kid on the block to a bodybuilder at one point in Texas?
Yes, I was the ultimate zero to hero. Literally, I started off, I was 110 pounds, soaking wet with boots on in Texas. And I just, one day, I was like, I always was into sports. And I was like, listen, I'm going to start training with weights because I got to be bigger than these. I mean, in Texas, I don't know if you know about, Texas sports and football, but
Yeah.
it's like a religion there. And so everybody I knew, and this is, you're talking about the late 80s and early 90s,
Sure.
everybody was getting into weightlifting and getting into sports. So I was like, look, I'm tired of being skinny. I just can't be skinny anymore. I gotta, and I was actually skinny fat. So I was the first skinny fat person probably ever. But and so I said, listen, the gym is a place I realized that anybody could go in there as a zero and come out as a hero. It's the great equalizer because there's no advantages or there's no like anybody can go lift weights and get better, right? So that's what I decided to do. And that moment, playing football in Texas, changed my life. The first day I picked up a weight, I was addicted, and I said, this is something I really can enjoy. And you see the physical benefits right away. It's that scene of Spider-Man. Remember in Spider-Man when he gets bit by the spider and he's in the mirror and he's like, "Ooh, wow, okay, I'm getting." So I started seeing results, and results builds momentum, confidence, and so I realized that my confidence started growing, and I started becoming kind of fearless through weight training. So it changed my life, and I stopped being skinny for a little bit.
Wow, that's impressive. So that's it's kind of like a transformational period, if you will, because it changes your mindset. Granted, you become unstoppable, and then fearless, like you placed it so beautifully. And then of course with the fitness comes nutrition. And so I like to touch on nutrition just because I know we're gonna try to race through a lot of this stuff, but because you're such a pro, we're gonna roll through this as quickly as possible, but gather as much information that can really help change or the pivotal moment that can kind of be of a change for someone's life, including myself. Okay. So, you know, what was what was the moment though, the pivotal moment? I'm still curious when you decided, I want to lift weights just to get to even to that particular moment, if you will. Did somebody tell you can do it too, or well, I'm just going to try this out once and see what it's like?
Well, what happened was I was always an athletic kid. So I was always playing basketball, I was playing sports all my life. I mean, he was a little kid. And this is back in the day when kids used to play outside. I don't know if you remember that.
Of course. And you could play outside and not get kidnapped. They would send you off with the brown bag and then see you at sunset or something, When
Literally.
the sun sets, you'd come back, or if you were lucky, your parents didn't worry. It was a good old time.
It was a good old days where I literally would leave the house in the morning and come back at night, and no, my parents wouldn't ask any questions. I was on the streets, I was riding my bike around, and so I was always into basically sports and being athletic. It just I enjoyed it, and growing up as an immigrant coming here, I started watching football. When I was right when I moved to America, and I loved the idea of just sports and just all that stuff. And so to me, the pivotal moment was I was in high school as a freshman, and one of my friends said, "Hey, listen, why don't we go to the weight room?" I said, "What do you do in the weight room?" Oh, so you gotta lift these weights and you can get muscles and you could be like the heroes you watch on the movies and TV. And I was a big Stallone fan, and I watched Arnold. I was watching the Terminator and Rocky, and I was like, wow, I want to look like that. I was always had this vision in my mind, like I gotta look, I gotta do something like to look like them. And so that moment, my friend took me to the weight room, and the buzz.
Rehan, cut the act, buddy. It was the girls that made you go in that.
Hey, honestly speaking, to me, that did come later. But in the beginning, it really wasn't. It was just the idea of me looking like a superhero. I
Yes.
want to be that superhero. And I was like, and my friend's like, hey, you could do it. You could go in the gym and train. And so he took me to the weight room. I did my first workout, and I thought I was the strongest person on earth with no weights on there. People were laughing at me, and they said, "Oh my God, what are you doing? You're the skinniest kid in the block. I mean, you're like Skeletor." But I said, I'm going to change my trajectory right now. And so I not only did I start lifting weights in the weight room at the high school gym, but I said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and play football. And my friends thought I was crazy. They're like, you're a skinny kid. Texas football is no joke. I mean, just to give you a concept,
Heavyweights.
like
They're big guys, big linebacker.
well, six people I played high school football with made the NFL. I mean, it was. I mean,
Right.
everybody. They were elite athletes, and so
It's a football town. Really,
yeah,
Texas is football.
yeah, Houston was.
Everyone and their grandmother and their mom and their dogs love football. For real.
Oh, and so that's where the story leads to the girls, and that's what. So I said, if I play football, I could become popular in high school because I was a skinny, nerdy kid. I was a very scientific, glasses, and so I was like, listen, if I play football, man, not only could I get a body, but then I could also get some girls. Maybe I could
Get
get
some
popular.
bodies.
I could be a popular because in Texas high school football, if you're a football player, you are revered by the town, by the
That's right.
school. I mean, they used to decorate your house before games. You were treated like royalty. So I said, okay, I got to do that. So the first year I went out there, I got beat on like a sack of potatoes. I was getting hit left and right, and I think I probably suffered maybe a few hundred concussions, but that might explain my crazy life. But anyway, I was hit hard as a kid. But then I started getting better, started improving, and I started becoming a pretty good football player. And I started getting recruited, and so the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm listening to your journey, and as you're talking, I'm living vicariously through this young man who aspires to the end result is for you to get fit, and as a result, what happens in the trajectory is so beautifully done because all the stars get aligned, and literally, it's a package deal. You get the whole package, in just in the fact that you just decided to look good, you feel good mentally, spiritually, your journey changes, and now you're a sports guru helping out all these celebrity clients. I have a question for you because I do want to ask you and delve into like more tailor it more in the way of self pragmatic kind of a system that most people can do. Your average Joe that works nowadays is not. It used to be the what 9 to 5. Now it's like 9 to 9. You know what I mean? Like most people work a lot. So having worked with a diverse group of celebrities and clients and high end clients in Hollywood and professionals alike, how do you tailor the approach for each individual's needs?
I think that's a great question, a wonderful question, and I think that one of the best things I've always preached, even when I started in the late 90s, was customization. I believe that there's no cookie cutter program. I believe every body is different. We all are dynamic individuals. There's only one of you, and there's only one of me. We are all one of ones, and our DNA proves that. And so I think that everything that in fitness, diet, training, every kind of strategy related to fitness has to be customized, has to be a personalized approach. So what works for you may not work for me. So the first thing I would do for most people is get blood work done. Understand your preferences, what you can do, be realistic in what you can actually do. So, for example, if I get you on a program and say, eat chicken and broccoli, you're like, well, I don't like chicken or broccoli. You're not going
Right.
to do it. You're not going to do it. I mean, you're just not, there's no way you could do it for a little bit. You could do it for a minute. I've seen people do it for 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Then they quit because it's just not enjoyable. So I think what works best is something you enjoy. If you don't like, for example, running and you're like, I can't do running. Okay, how about cycling? Oh, I love cycling. Okay, do cycling. So whatever you love and whatever your preferences are, and then whatever your blood work kind of shows on what your body is at, then we design a program based on that. Now, there's some general principles that can apply to everyone. For example, walking is really beneficial to most people. So walking is a great way to extend lifespan, to help health, to drop weight. So walking, daily is just a good thing to do for your body. Weight training is one of the most important things to do in life for longevity, for health, for body, everything, and even fat loss. So there's certain parameters that apply. A high protein diet works for
High
most people.
protein diet.
But
Yes.
again, I think customization is very important, and that way you can stay on for longevity because there's so many quick fix programs, right? You've seen the ads on Instagram, you've seen the
Sure.
ads. Oh, drop 30 pounds in 30 days, and drop and the problem is, and I've battled these ads all my life. It's these quick fix they're taking advantage of someone who's kind of hopeless in some ways, right?
Yeah.
Someone like and I don't like that at all because I think that people take advantage of someone who just needs hope, and then you give them
On the backs of vulnerable people, essentially.
exactly. And so I don't like that part. I like longevity. Like for example, I've had a lot
Right.
of my celebrity clients I've had for 20 years, 15 years. Because you might have a client for 20 years, for 15 years, for 10 years. And the reason is because not only do I provide consistent results, but I understand and adjust because your body is actually different over certain periods of time. So for example, you're not what you were when you were 20 or 25. Now it's
Right.
different. So everything matters. So for example, when I started working with Ben Affleck, for example, in 2005, right? His body in 2005, when we got ready for the early movies, The Town and all those movies,
Yeah, it's a
was
great
different,
film.
right? But his body was different when we did Batman. So
Yeah.
Batman was a different body because he was older. He was playing an older character. He had to look a little different, and his body was different when he was accountant, and then accountant two. And so every time you evolve, you change, you adjust, and you customize it for the person that you're working with.
Beautifully done. On that same note, so what I'm gathering is it's deeper than we think. We think we want to skim through stuff, but no pun intended, skimming. But you know, you want we're skimming through, but no. We really have to. There's a science behind it. You gotta literally do the blood work, find out where you're at, um, at that particular time in your life, and then tailor make it to each individual based on also your taste buds. You mentioned you might not like chicken, and then also kind of how much body fat should you be losing or do you need to lose. Now you have an interesting blueprint, if you will, of what is it, the 45% protein, as I understand it. Can you break that down a little bit for us?
Sure, sure. And but before I break it down, I want to also say one really important thing. And I think the most important thing out of everything that I tell people, that I've told people for 30 years doing this, is take massive action. That is the first step. Okay, the great quote that says, "Don't wait, the time will never be just right." And so I think one of the most important things in fitness, above all, above learning the science, learning your body, is just take massive action today. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait till everybody says, "I'm going to start Monday."
Yeah.
And there's actually a chapter in my new book called "Monday Never Comes," actually, because it
Okay.
never does. It's just
Hey,
some life
it's
happens.
it's
Yeah.
like and sorry interject. It's like when you're making your bed when you're a kid, and your mom would say, "You're gonna make I promise to get around to it later." And then later, I meant later, mom. And then later was the following day. Well, tomorrow's always the best time to start everything. And then
Later equals never. You know
yeah.
what I mean? And I think
So
procrastination is depression.
procrastination.
Procrastination equals depression, because I think people are depressed because they don't take action. So if you take the action and progress, creates happiness, creates a momentum. So I tell people, "Oh, what's the secret of fitness?" I go out and go for a walk right now. Go for a
Yeah.
walk.
So
Go drink more water.
when you say walk, small paces or sprint walking, or what works the best for your heart? Just get it pumping no matter what.
The best, to me, the best form of walking is moderate pace, to where you can have a conversation, a brisk walk, to where you can have a conversation, and about 30 to 45 minutes. It doesn't have to be super crazy or super fast, and you can burn great amounts of fat. I like to do it on an empty stomach in the morning, drinking a cup of coffee. You can do it in the evening, wherever you have time. But I think, again, taking that massive action. I don't care if it's drinking one more glass of water a day, whatever that step is. And so once you can take the mindset, right, you have to change the mindset of action. Once you take the action, then you can get into, I believe in 45% protein, 40% carbohydrates, and
Yeah.
15% essential fats for the diet. That's just a general recommendation. But again, some people are very sensitive to carbohydrates. Some people can eat carbs. For example, I'm one of the, I guess, lucky ones who can eat carbs all day and not gain weight. I have no problem with carbs. I can't eat fat. That's
Oh,
my
tapeworm in their
personal
stomach.
issue. Yeah, right.
You got
Exactly. So,
anaconda in your stomach, eating everything.
exactly.
I I have a cousin that I tend to always joke with and rib all the time. Like, dude, where's your food go? Like, it's crazy. Everything I eat. I'll be honest with you. I'm 40 plus now, and in my mid 40s, and
Wow,
the
you look so
fact of the
young.
matter is, thank you. I stopped smoking many years ago. I used to smoke cigarettes, and you always find something to blame, why you're picking up a cancer stick, be it just the stress level, or oh, we're on the skids here, on the rocks, the relationships, and smoking like a pack of cigarettes a day. But no, I've quit smoking a long time ago. Our thing is we tend to munch on food, on snacks. I snack a lot, and I started with carrots, and I know the regimen. Obviously, I know the regimen. I've done it before. It's like I worked out. I used to, not to your level, but I worked out a lot. I was a gym rat, literally gym rat, And then people used to call, "You're a gym rat. What's up, bro?" And I go to the gym all the time, and then at some point, you know how it is, you fall off the bandwagon because you get married, and then, your spouse, like, I don't know if that has anything to do with it. You just kind of slow down, and
Sure.
then you pick up the bad eating vices, which that's something that I substituted the smoking with food.
Called
And
life.
and then yeah,
Life.
yeah, it's life. Life happens basically. And so, but I do want to get kind of a sense of a workout, if you will, and get and then I also want to get to the point where um I want to feel that dopamine, that dopamine thing, coming in, and just feeling that second wind, if you will, like you're jogging, and I want to feel that again, and just get with it. But like you said, procrastination tends to happen quite a bit. Like you put things in the back burner, or you start and then you stop because you go to a banquet and there's food for days, and then you just start talking like I do. And before you know it, you've eaten like freaking two sliders. Holy mother of God. And then I eat this and the chips, the salsa. I mean,
Food is everywhere and it's delicious. It's
right. Yeah. I need to I think you and I need to talk offline. I could tailor make a plan so my wife and I could follow suit and just do it in such a way where it's it doesn't it's tasteful, literally, and then I can feel my taste buds kind of after, especially at nighttime, I can satisfy the cravings, maybe a high protein or something. That's something we could talk later. But let's continue the conversation because I also wanted to ask you, you have your book, The Six Pack Diet Plan, right? Let's go into that because I do want to, as much as possible, encourage people as myself. I'm going to buy it, by the way. It really talks about, it delves into the kind of intensity and the training and the diet and the supplementation, right? How important is supplementation, like the supplements? How important is that?
That's a great question. And I think going back to your point is people know what to do, they just don't do what they know. So I think inherently people know, hey, this is probably bad for me or good for me, So it's just again taking action. But I think supplements are exactly what the name implies. They're a supplement to a good nutrition, training, and sleep and recovery program. I think sleep is very underrated. Sleep can help reduce stress. I think stress is literally the biggest killer in America. Heart disease is the number one killer of Americans, and a lot of the heart disease is related directly to stress, to cortisol, the stress hormone. And we are all under some type of stress, and we don't do anything to mitigate that, to address that. And so I think meditation, breathing, something simple as getting quality sleep, all that is really a big piece of the fitness puzzle. So if you have your nutrition correct, if your training is on point, if your sleep and recovery is good, then you can certainly add supplements in to help get you better results quicker. And again, I think supplements are to get better results quicker and also to address any nutritional deficiencies. So nobody eats perfect. Nobody can eat a perfect diet. So you're going to have vitamin, mineral, other deficiencies. And so supplements can help address that and help continue improving your health, your wellness. And so I think supplements are important for a lot of people because many people are deficient. For example, 90% of people I test in my lab are deficient in vitamin D. Vitamin
Right.
D3 is one of the most important, I would call it actually a hormone, it's not even a vitamin, that actually addresses like 300 different things in your body. And so if you have a
Right.
deficiency in vitamin D, you're going to have immunocompromise. You're going to get sick more often. You're not going to be
Yes.
able to burn fat as much. You're not going to have brain function. You're not going to be able to have energy. I mean, there's so many things that vitamin D is involved with gut health that you need to, I think everybody should supplement vitamin D3 at least 5,000 IUs a day. So I would get on that right away, Jim, right
So
away.
you have to, so basically what you're saying complementary, like you have to complement basically for the lack of nutrients or whatever you don't get in your diet, right?
Exactly
What I'm
right.
hearing. And then
Yes.
I'm definitely on vitamin D, but I live in sunny SoCal, bro. So, you
But you
know,
know what? You know what? It's actually. I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, a lot of people say that. Hey, I'm in Miami. I'm in SoCal. But you know what? The problem is the machinery in your skin that can make vitamin D from the sun has been compromised because of toxins, because of other things in the environment, and so you actually don't process. You don't actually get vitamin D even from the sun, and you got to be out there a very long time. So I think it's just a good safety net to take a vitamin D supplement. I think the 5,000 IUs is very helpful to most people, and
okay,
literally it's almost life changing to a lot of people. Actually,
I'm gonna jump on that like yesterday. Let me ask you in your view or your frame of mind, like how does mental health play into this? Like how does it interact with or you intersect with physical fitness?
man, you are coming with the banger questions today. My God, these are great
Jeez.
questions.
I'm
Really good
getting
questions.
hot, dude.
Yeah, it gets burning in here. Ooh,
We're on
caliente.
fire.
Dang, en fuego. So I always say that the brain and the body is directly connected. So, for example, there is a gut-brain axis, actually. So if your gut is unhealthy, they've actually shown that you can have bipolar disorder. You can have a lot of mental disorders if your gut biome is not optimal or proper. And so you actually have a connection. The gut is actually connected to the brain by this nerve called the vagus nerve. And so your digestion and your gut health directly, literally directly through this vagus nerve affects mental health. So a lot of people who have depression, who have a lot of these kind of mental disorders, is actually because their gut health is compromised. So, for example, a lot of people, a
Interesting.
lot of my clients, or not a lot, but some of my clients have some issues with mental health. And when I correct their gut biome through probiotics, through better eating, through training, literally that goes away. Their mental health is at the optimal level because their gut is at the optimal level. So it's
Right.
directly connected. So I think it's very important to take care of gut health And the thing is, our gut is compromised because we're eating so much junk. We're eating such processed foods, and even the environment. Everything affects the gut. So I think it's very important. Besides vitamin D3, I think everybody should take a probiotic supplement with at
Probiotic
least
supplement.
40 billion CFUs is called. It's like a really high quality, but try to take a probiotic because you want that gut flora to be optimal, so your digestion, so your immune system is very optimal. Actually, people don't know this, but most of your immune system is actually in your gut. And so if your gut is unhealthy, you're going to get sick a lot more. So I think it's very important to take care of your gut for mental health.
Wow, dude, that's mind blowing. I was like listening, like, holy mother of God. Yeah, I think we're obviously, for obvious reasons, we're all interconnected. Our bodies, the chemistry of our bodies, as it were, where it's all intertwined, and so it makes sense as to why it would affect the brain. I mean, you just don't kind of quantify it that way. You don't look at it and kind of say, all right, wait a minute, this many. No, you don't put it together many a times. You think it's a whole separate issue, and so you try to tackle it from a different angle, if you will. Um, I know we're pressed for time, and I know you have an event to attend. But I wanted to ask you if we can once again we could jump on this on the pod, whether it's here, perhaps maybe virtual or in person. I mean, could do
Love,
like a part two, and we could discuss this more in greater detail. I'm
love.
um I'm just beyond thrilled that you're able to get on here, jump on here for a little bit of time and shed light on some of the things. By the way, right behind you, I noticed at the top, is that a trophy or is that a clay, or is that like made out of clay? But it's something you may have won when you were working out,
Yeah,
when you were
yeah, it's a trophy. Actually,
Texas.
yeah, I was a champion bodybuilder in the '90s. I used to that was for the Mr. Texas competition. So I did win Mr. Texas. I went to the nationals, and I was a natural competitor. So yeah, those are some of my old trophies from 100 years ago.
Wow, unbelievable. I don't know. Right before we leave, so real quick, so we mentioned walking, vitamin D. We said probiotics, very important. And then
Sleep.
sleep, sleep. Simplicity, that's fine. Sleep. Try to sleep more. 7 to 9 hours, you're saying? 7 to 8 hours?
Yeah, I would say 7 to 9 hours, but I think it's more important to worry about the quality of sleep.
Quality, not the
Yeah, a lot of
quantity.
people get confused and say like, "Well, I sleep 9 hours," but that you wake up every hour. Like you know, what I mean,
Right.
it's not a continuous deep. We call it REM sleep. There's 5 stages of sleep. Four
Yes.
plus REM, and you go through those cycles of those 5 stages about 2 or 3 times a night. And we need to make sure those are maximized, and you go into what we call deep sleep. We want really deep sleep because that creates recovery, and you can actually improve a lot of body function. In fact, you can't actually lose weight or lose fat if you're getting less than 6 hours of sleep a night.
That's the
It's
recovery period. You're
yeah,
recharging. It's like charging your phone.
oh, it's very important. And I think one of the most problematic things, speaking of phone, perfect segue, we actually have the biggest problem, and we're all guilty of it. I am too, is what do we do in the bed? Bed rotting, we call it, right? We run the phone like right before we sleep. And that blue light creates a delay in sleep up to an hour. So you
Yeah.
can't actually go into deep sleep. Even after you fall asleep, you have an hour or two before you can actually get into even deep sleep because you have all this blue light. So what I always recommend people is turn your phone off 1 hour before bed. Keep them in a separate room. Also, a lot of people keep the bed right next to their head while they're
Yeah.
sleeping, and all those rays are coming in. And these aren't gamma
Information
rays.
overload. Information overload. It really does it does a real bad, number on you. And it really does, because you're not able to sleep and recover, like you said. So this is our time. I'm really excited for the next time and to meet in person. I like to possibly, run some things, by you perhaps. And you've been nothing but a blessing to me today, man, and to a lot of us. Once this airs, in 3 or 4 days, I'll have it out.
Right.
Maybe four. I'm thinking closer to 4 days. You have one person before you, but I'm dying to see how this is all gonna play out, and definitely took some mental notes as you were talking. Thanks so much, Rehan Jalali, ladies and
Thank you so
gentlemen.
much. Thank you for having me. And look, we're gonna get you an 8 pack soon.
All right, just before you go, what are your social media handles?
It's at Six Pack Diet Plan SIX. pack diet plan, and you can find me everywhere.
Fantastic. Just Google your name. You're like freaking a juggernaut, bro. You're freaking unbelievably famous. Thank you so much, man, for making it out to the show. Thanks again. That's my show, guys. Almost Famous. Thank once again, Rehan Jalali, ladies and gentlemen. Woo.
Go, let's go, let's
Dude,
go.
I'm ready, bro. I'm pumped.
Awesome.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
man.
See you later.
Enjoy.